America, the land of freedom. Yet, for millions, freedom was only a dream denied by laws, by violence, by the color of one's skin. But one man dared to believe that love could conquer hate, and his dream would change history. Martin Luther King Jr. was born in Atlanta, Georgia, in 1929. Raised in a world divided by segregation, he grew up knowing the pain of injustice. But shaped by faith and inspired by hope, he rose to become the voice of a generation. His mission was not built on anger, but on nonviolence, a belief that peace could bring true freedom. This is the story of the dream that changed America. In the mid-20th century, America called itself the land of the free. But for millions of African Americans, freedom was only a promise, written into the nation's founding documents, yet never delivered. Across the South, Jim Crow laws dictated daily life. Signs marked whites only and colored only. Separate schools, separate restaurants, separate neighborhoods. Even drinking fountains were divided by race. For many, the simple dream of equality seemed impossible. Everyday life carried quiet humiliations. A black family traveling through the South might struggle to find a hotel that would accept them, or even a restaurant where they could eat. Children learned early that they were not considered equal in the eyes of the law. Generations had grown up this way, and change felt out of reach. Yet, history often turns on small acts of courage, and in 1955, such an act changed everything. In Montgomery, Alabama, Rosa Parks, a quiet, hard-working seamstress, refused to give up her seat to a white passenger on a segregated bus. She was arrested, but her act of defiance lit a spark. The black community of Montgomery, weary of decades of mistreatment, decided to stand together. They would boycott the city buses. For as long as it took, they would not ride. But a movement needed leadership. Someone who could speak for the people, who could organize without hatred, yet inspire with passion. That person was a young pastor named Martin Luther King Jr., just 26 years old. Though new to the public stage, King possessed a gift for words and a deep belief in the power of faith and nonviolence. For 381 days, through heat, rain, and cold, African Americans walked to work, to school, and to church. They organized carpools, supported one another, and endured threats, arrests, and violence. White supremacists bombed King's house. He was arrested and fined. Yet the community held strong. Finally, in 1956, the Supreme Court ruled bus segregation unconstitutional. The boycott had succeeded. The Montgomery Bus Boycott was more than a protest. It was a turning point. It showed the world that ordinary people, united in nonviolent resistance, could force change. And it introduced Martin Luther King Jr. as a national leader, a voice that would not be silenced. Through the late 1950s and into the early 1960s, King became the face of the civil rights movement. He traveled across the South, leading marches, sit-ins, and campaigns. In Birmingham, Alabama, even children joined the movement, filling the jails when they marched for freedom. Police turned fire hoses and dogs on peaceful protesters. The images shocked the nation and stirred consciences far beyond the South. Again and again, King was jailed. Again and again, he faced mobs, beatings, and threats. Yet, he refused to respond with violence. His philosophy was rooted in the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, who had proven that nonviolent resistance could break the power of an empire. King believed the same could be true in America. Hate cannot drive out hate, he often said. Only love can do that. His commitment to peace gave his movement moral power, even as his opponents unleashed brutality. Then came one of the most defining moments of the century. On August 28, 1963, more than 250,000 people gathered in Washington, D.C. for the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. It was the largest demonstration the Capitol had ever seen. People came by bus, by train, and on foot from every corner of the country. Standing at the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, Martin Luther King Jr. rose to speak. Behind him stood the statue of the president who had freed the slaves. Before him stretched a sea of humanity, black and white, young and old. His speech began calmly, But then King set aside his prepared text. In a soaring voice, he began to share his dream. "I have a dream," he declared again and again. A dream where children of all races could join hands as equals. A dream where justice flowed like water. His words painted a vision of a nation that could be, if only it chose love over hate. That speech did not just inspire those who were present, it echoed across the world. It became one of the most famous speeches in human history and a defining moment in America's story. But progress was never easy. For every step forward, there was pushback. White supremacists fought back with violence. Churches were bombed. Protesters were murdered. In 1963, 4 young girls were killed when a church in Birmingham was bombed by racists. The fight for civil rights was marked by sacrifice. King himself lived under constant threat. His phone rang with death threats day and night. The FBI, led by J. Edgar Hoover, placed him under surveillance, tapping his phones and trying to discredit him. They feared his influence and his growing power, yet King refused to be intimidated. In 1964, his tireless work was recognized when he received the Nobel Peace Prize. At just 35 years old, he was the youngest person ever awarded the honor. He donated the entire prize money, over $50,000, to support the movement. But recognition did not mean safety. The threats only grew louder. King's mission also expanded. He saw the connections between racism, poverty, and war. He spoke out against economic injustice, calling for fair wages and opportunities for the poor. He opposed the Vietnam War, arguing that America could not claim to fight for freedom abroad while denying it at home. Some criticized him for taking on too much, but King believed that justice was indivisible. To him, peace abroad and equality at home were part of the same dream. By 1968, his journey brought him to Memphis, Tennessee. There, sanitation workers, mostly African American, were on strike after years of dangerous conditions and low pay. Their simple demand was dignity, the right to be treated as men, not as disposable labor. King came to support them, declaring, "All labor has dignity." On April 3, 1968, he gave his final speech, known as "I've Been to the Mountaintop." In it, he spoke with almost prophetic vision. "I may not get there with you," he said, "but we, as a people, will get to the promised land." The next evening, April 4, 1968, as he stood on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, a single shot rang out. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. He was just 39 years old. The news spread instantly. Across America, cities erupted in grief, in anger, in despair. A great voice had been silenced, yet his dream did not die. In the years that followed, the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act brought legal equality. Schools and public spaces slowly desegregated. Millions of African Americans gained rights long denied. Around the world, King's message of nonviolence inspired movements for freedom and justice. Today, Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered not only as a leader of his time, but as a symbol for all time. His birthday is honored as a national holiday in the United States. Statues stand in his memory. Streets and schools bear his name. His words continue to echo in classrooms, in churches, in protests, and in songs. Generations who never saw him alive still carry his dream forward. His life was short, but his impact eternal. His dream reminds us that even in the darkest of nights, hope can shine. And his story proves that one person, armed with faith, courage, and love, can indeed change the course of history. Martin Luther King Jr. is remembered not only as a leader, but as a dreamer who gave hope to millions. His dream lives on, reminding us that change is possible and that one voice can truly transform history.